Well, folks, coming up with episode number 82 of the Read Method Insider podcast. And this is a pretty interesting show, I can tell you. I don't think we've ever dived this deep into B2B sales and the technology behind scaling business in B2B sales. And we have an expert standing by to join us momentarily as we dive into episode 82 of the Read Method show. And this episode is going to be about incorporating sales to scale your business. Our guest for this episode today is the managing partner at Add10. And I like that title, by the way, Add10. I'd like to add multiple zeros, actually, but we'll start with adding one at a time. So he's the managing partner at Add10, where his team provides lead to close sales execution for B2B tech companies ready to scale from 6 to 7 digits of revenue. Throughout his career, he has closed almost $40 million in deals, averaging over $150K. He has deep roots, or is deep-rooted expertise in selling software and services, and has helped several companies grow and scale into mid-7 figures. He's also a host of major accomplishments. He hosts approximately 200 episodes on the Gun iOS The Frontier podcast, featuring professionals across software engineering leadership spectrum. His professional services also includes being as a developer, a publisher, and he's facilitated a lot in startup as well as entrepreneurship. And this is why we're inviting Ledge on the show with us today, with his expertise on how to incorporate sales in your business. Welcome to the show, Ledge.
It's good to be here. Thank you, everyone.
You know, your intro is like a tongue twister with all the big words, and
I get picked on for my vocabulary. I know. I need to make it more simple, right? So, you know, I like to be an academic, maybe too much. So
yeah, I'm a simple guy. I'm in advertising, sales, and car sales, and here I am now. Dive in a bit, but this is how you learn. So I have no issues with this. I love the fact that I can learn new things with this podcast, and that's one of the great things of having a podcast. You meet interesting people like yourself.
It is, yeah. I interview folks. We actually have a new one. It's called Leaders of B2B. So we spend a lot of time with B2B technology professionals there, and I go on podcasts all the time. So I think it's a great vehicle.
Well, I did listen to your B2B podcast, and I thought it was quite interesting, actually. And I've also checked out some of your videos on your YouTube channel, and which we'll definitely share with the audience today, and how to reach you. But very cool things I learned, and some things but then when you hear a second or third time, you pick up on different perspectives, and like, yeah, it works there too. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there are some fundamental truths, and, different things in different sectors kind of change, and maybe different verticals of, areas that we sell in, people, car sales versus, B2B versus B2C, the whole thing. But I believe there are some just fundamental, sort of good rapport building types of tools that are common to all of us in the sales seat.
So your career path is pretty interesting, and I know there's a lot that I left out in the intro, and that would best summarize you and what led you to this specialty niche market of helping tech companies to scale by incorporating sales strategies. So what led you down this path?
Yeah, I was a technologist and an operator, and I worked through, being a coder and all types of different things. And I always had an interest in being an entrepreneur. So I started some businesses about 14 years ago, and I've really just, I don't know that I was ever interested in sales. I just never really knew sales was a thing. I sort of just thought that naively, right? And I'm sure other founders can relate to this, it's just, if we build it, they will come, type of sales and marketing. And it turns out that you can build it and they don't come. So you have to go tell people about what you're doing. And, the real story is that, I learned to sell because I had to, and I had hired a bunch of people. And so here we are, 8 sort of consultant practitioners in a room, and nobody's selling anything. And, so I had to start to go out to do that. And it turned out that I was, successful at making people money. So I turned my attention to doing business development, and I worked through technology and then services. So services now being the main area. So we think of it as technology enabled services companies.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting where, you always have the great minds and the creative minds and the great innovators of technology and services and all these different, tools and that high-tech stuff that we see like literally on a daily, hourly basis now with new technology coming on board. But you always like, how do you actually sell that stuff? How does it actually go to market? What do you do? How do you make it actually happen? And I'm actually in the midst of doing a startup myself too, but coming from a sales background, all I can think about is selling sometimes.
Yeah, right.
But absolutely. So what fascinates you about B2B sales in this world that we're in right now? Is it partnerships? Is it sales cycles? What is it?
Well, I like B2B because the ticket size is large. I think that, so when we think about, if you want to go sell something that has a big sticker. I think that's pretty much universal, right? And then
nothing wrong with thinking big.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we like to do is work with founders. So our sort of the passion behind the business is that any founder we will work with never has to worry about cash flow again, because I've been that founder trying to figure out how to make payroll, the coming Friday and just stressing money all the time. And I have a theory that, nobody wakes up in the middle of the night sort of looking at the ceiling, sweating about their business, about anything more than, or other than let's make more sales. How do I make more sales? So my passion area, I guess, in there, and why I'm fascinated by the idea that top line growth really kind of cures, or at least takes care of a lot of the ills of business, right? So
yes,
and founders can really be great practitioners and operators, or can really focus on sales. And I kind of think it splits. There's a fork in the road at a certain point in a services business where you have grown it as much as you can as a founder, and you're either going to have to get somebody to help you with sales, or you're going to have to get somebody to help you run the company. You really, when you can't do all the things anymore, our interest is the people that they don't want to sell. They want to be practitioner operators. They want to run their company. They want to be a CEO and get out of the sales seat. And they face a challenge at that point of how to fill the sales seat if they don't do it. You can go try to hire a VP of sales or an inside salesperson or what have you at that point. But you're unskilled to do that. You've never done that before. So I think you need a sales program at that point. So then you can hire any number of consultants or folks who are going to help you build the thing, but you still don't want to do the thing.
Yeah.
So our idea was, we like to do the thing. We like closing deals. We like being on calls. That's what we do. We're closers. And we need revenue programs and operations. So we'll build all that stuff and we'll close deals. And then the founder that doesn't want to be in that seat anymore and who just wants to think about running the business and growing staff and, delivering excellent quality services and product can do all those things, and we'll take care of revenue, for them, which is really important because it's the fuel that goes with everything else.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can have all the great minds in the world, but if there's no sales, you're going to have some issues.
Yeah.
Eventually, all that startup money you'll run out of runway, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe in bootstrapping. So we resonate a lot with bootstrappers. Not that we're against people getting, investor funding, but If you've bootstrapped your service company up to the point where you're doing nice $500,000 in revenue a year, that's fantastic. You're already better than like 99% of people that ever tried to make a business. If you then want to go to 5 million, you're probably going to have to build a fundamentally different structure in business to scale.
Yeah.
We're looking for operations and founders where they want to scale past that point. So super selective and niche.
So I may have to call you in a couple of years.
Well, I hope so. It is a thing that I wish for everybody. And if you aren't there yet and anybody's listening, it's keep hustling to get that go to market and, build that initial kind of groundswell of business. And if you start to plateau, at that $250,000 to $500,000 type of range, well, it means you've done something successful. You've gone to market, you've validated some service that is necessary and you're getting paid enough money. Now you can look to scale. But scaling is totally different. The business that you have to build to get from $500,000 to 5 million is what we do. And it's a different business than you built to get to $500,000 in the first place. And, God willing, you're able to get from, 5 million to 50. That's a totally different business that I don't pretend to know how to build.
Yeah.
So, I think that we just want to add 1 0 and it's the one between the 6s and the 7s.
That's such an interesting title, add 1 0. I mean, many of us, I don't know anybody who wouldn't like to add 1 0, at least initially.
Right. And, I won't be bold and say we're going to add 2. We're just going to add 1. It's going to be between that $500,000 and 5 million type of jump there, get that 10X. And that's the 10X that we know how to do. And I like to focus on that. That is our specialization.
No, that's cool. So with the current times that we're in with the pandemic, where that's a main subject worldwide, how does a company lay out the groundwork for scaling and incorporating sales, especially when they had, other major decisions to make during the last year, you think?
Well, that's the nature of, when I talk about tech enabled, now you have to have a certain, sort of basic stack of software in place. We like to companies that are using, for example, like Slack, Google Workplace, some kind of knowledge management tool. We like Confluence from Atlassian and Zoom. And, there's this collection of tools that you have to use. A CRM, we like HubSpot for that. So the way that you build a program, the way that you plan and build in sales is 80% operations and technology. Yes, you need someone like me or like one of our, sort of reps on the calls, and it looks just like this, just like we are in a video, and that's how we sell. But don't kid yourself. You have a lot of stuff to build, sales enablement materials, just all kinds of work. It's months of work to build out a revenue program that you can execute in a scalable way. And that's really where we spend most of our time. The sexy part is, people on calls that are closing deals, but that is really just the actor in the play. I look at it that way, like go to a Broadway show, right? Like you get somebody in the spotlight and they're great and they get all the attention. But think of all the operations that goes into running a theater and putting a show on and repeating a production and, all the things necessary to get the audience there. That's the real work of revenue. The rest of us who get to close, we're just lucky that we get put in front of the camera now.
Yeah, exactly. You always wonder about those big events and how they're pulled off, and it's the behind the scenes for sure. But so there are many multiple factors that contribute to the success of a company, especially those at the fork, so to speak. Designing how to scale and to make their strategic pivot. So today, with the competition and technology, you need revolutionary ideas. You need the right people. you need the right people on the bus, according to Jim Collins, putting the right people on the bus. And but is that enough? Or some companies are finding that may not even be enough. So what do you think is missing from companies like this?
It is definitely not enough to have a great idea and great people. It's all about, I mean, you can say it 100 times over. It's all about execution. So, and, I really think that that's sometimes what gets missed. It's yeah, you can deliver a great thing. You have a great idea, but it's the blocking and tackling of everyday work to get,
or even the technology. You can have the ideas, the technology, but not, the practical application.
It's really easy to build software nobody wants. You can build beautiful, beautiful software that solves a problem that has no market viability. I see that all the time. And people that, want to offer a service solution for lots of money, and there's just not enough demand for it.
Yeah.
So the number one thing that we're going to come in and do is just try to see if we can position and package whatever it is that a company offers so that it's a really compelling and easy sale. And that's not often the easiest thing to do. So we have to just look at it and say, why do people actually buy this? Maybe even study the existing customers and say, why did you purchase this thing? If you have happy customers, they bought it and they stick with you for a reason. And you'd be surprised how many people never even talk to their existing customers and find out what the buying pattern was to get to that.
To get to that point, yeah.
If you've been overly discounting to get whatever revenue you could to come in the door, are those even good clients? So we have to watch out for that a lot. That folks are, bringing in anybody who'll pay kind of thing, and don't like that. So we want to make sure that these are, A+ clients that you want to bring in more of. So we'll also do that.
With all that said, how about the people? Like, what do you do with the people on a team? When you go into an organization, because I find that this is a lot of where companies drop the ball. You want to scale, you want to make these pivots, you want to get into selling so that you can scale or you can take things to the next level. But what about investing in people? Because this is where I think some companies they say, sure, here's the technology, here's the next best software, here's the next best communications system, but people are just not moved. They're not motivated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack, right? About how do you build a culture in a company and how do you scale a culture? Once you get past those initial, friends or founders that you began a company with, and you start adding, third parties to the mix who really kind of aren't related to you, and you realize, how do I communicate to these people all the things that I take for granted as to, where culture and values come from? And I think the real answer to that is, you have to spend the dedicated time to write it down and have the difficult conversations about why are we here and what are the core values of this company. And it's, I don't know, mission statements and such, whatever tool you want to use there, have you written down a way to communicate what those objectives should be? How do we value and think about things as a company? It's a critical error to miss not communicating that. And you see this hyper growth sort of ideas. We hire people so fast, we're growing so fast. Many, many times that's maybe not the best path because you just can't bring people up to speed that fast. So
that fast. Yeah.
Deliberate growth and being careful with growth is probably the better way to make a profitable
long-term venture anyways.
Yeah. And that's why I don't resonate so much with the, raise a bunch of money and lose a bunch of money and grow really fast. And, it's just not my particular area, become a unicorn and all this business. So I'd like to make profitable businesses that are of reasonable, 7-figure scale. And after that, I lose my interest. So let's go back.
Let's go. I can start over.
Let's
go help another one.
Absolutely.
So let's simplify it here for a little bit now. As far as selling is concerned, many are not successful in sales because they're afraid of the word no. And I watched one of your YouTube videos and I'm like, I can't believe I'm listening to this again, but it's so true, right? And so why should sales teams, even in B2B sales or B2B for that matter, embrace no, the little 2-letter word?
Because if somebody is going to buy a thing, you want to know that right away. I mean, I appreciate, I get argued with about this point. I appreciate that people want to nurture the pipeline and keep deals alive, and all that business. I want to focus that in as tight as we can at the beginning. And if it's a good buy sign right now, then let's get the yes or let's get the no and clear the pipe out. I just think there's too much, cognitive waste in the pipeline, and I say that because let's just get somebody to say yes or no now. And if they say no, great. It just cleared a spot on my calendar so that I can get another potential yes. Yeah. And our number one metric that we look at is call to close ratio. We want to do calls and we want to close deals. And the best approach is maybe 30%, which means like you're kind of like baseball players, that when you're going to strike out 7 out of 10 times. And what you'd like to do is get that over with so you can you can bat 300.
And a 300 hitter makes tens of millions of dollars. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. and it's sort of like, well, if you're batting 200, that's not great, but you still have a job.
Well, you're still on the team.
Yeah, right. You didn't get cut.
Yeah.
So I think it's, at least in our area of business, it seems to track pretty closely to that. So get the no's because they get your calendar cleared up. They clear out your pipeline. I tell you, the worst thing I see is these bunchy pipelines with there's some kind of nurture stage. There's always a nurture stage in the middle. And you know what that is? We call that the black hole, because as soon as a deal gets dropped into the nurture stage, nobody does anything until it just becomes this huge pile of nothing. So we want to clear that out. And we want to say, what are the good mechanisms that ought to happen if somebody says, not right now, next quarter? Cool. Let's program something up there. But in my mind, you lost that deal. That deal is lost. There may be a future deal. Get it out of your pipeline. Stop wasting your brain space on that. You got the no. Now set yourself up in some kind of automated fashion, or a task, or some emails are going to be sent, or get them back on your drip list, or whatever that is. But get that off the board. Your board should be about closing real deals.
You see, and this is where a lot of salespeople falter, whether in B2B or B2C, because they embrace no as a negative, as opposed to an opportunity to get to the next sale. Just like your analogy about the batter. You're going to strike out 7 out of 10 times, but you still have to be prepared to make your best pitch. Or your best swing, right? Every time, because if you don't, it's such a fine line that you could easily drop to a 200 hitter.
Yeah,
if you don't.
Well, we confuse ourselves that if I just nurture this one, it's good, but I just think it's a waste of time. Like inside sales, we should be on more calls, doing more repetition. It's like batting practice, right? The more you give your pitch, the better it's going to be. And that's also why I go on podcasts, because I have to explain over and over and over again and justify the positioning of what we do. So I think the more reps that you get, the better. And why do I want to not be able to pitch my thing because I'm nurturing an account? I just don't believe it. I know a lot of people fight me back on this. But.
Well, it's an interesting perspective, and this is why we have shows, right? We have different ideas, and that can be applied to different sectors and different companies. Another thing that I want to touch on with you is you talk about sales goals, and they make no sense in small companies. Why do you think not having sales goals in small companies is better? Not having sales goals.
Yeah, that's another controversial one that people pick on me for that video.
And that's why it's interesting to talk about, right?
Right. You know why? Because, and this is specific. I'm not saying that sales goals aren't a real thing for larger sales teams and, maybe larger companies. I don't know. I don't live in that world, but we are dealing with companies where, again, it's a service company, $500,000 to a couple $1 million of sales. Very often it gets to the next stage of, so they're trying to, the management team is trying to put together the pro forma for the next year. So here's our P&L. And what I have just found is the sales goals are derived from here's how much money we're going to spend. And then you have to sort of reverse justify your spending plan by deciding that we need enough sales to fill up the money that we intend to spend and pay out. So that's not a goal, that's a derivation, right? So in that sense, it's just justifying the wild guess that you put on your profit and loss pro forma. So that's where I don't think that's valuable. Now, our goal, I can tell you, for sales is easy. We want to close all the deals and get all the money. And we will never stop until we reach that goal. Now, will we ever reach that goal? No. we will not bat 1,000, nor will any, like we talk about with the baseball players.
So let's get that out of the way right off the bat.
No, you're not going to. But is it our objective there? So why am I going to have sales meetings every week and let's talk about our goals and all this? Like, we want to close all the deals, always, and I just think it's a waste of time to think otherwise, so we'll do our best against that wild goal, and we will not hit it. But we'll probably do better than setting some arbitrary, I don't know, we're going to do 250 grand this quarter, because it almost gives us opportunity to not be as diligent once we reach goal. Oh, yay, we hit our goal. Let's take a day off. I don't think that that's worthwhile. So I don't know. Yeah. So goals that are used as a justification for future spending obligations don't make any sense to me. And the vast majority of the conversations at our size of business and client seems to go that direction. So hence I have decided that I think sales goals are stupid. So,
so let's talk about another. We might as well do 3 out of 3 while we're at it. No sale Friday, or not making sales calls on Fridays.
Oh, no call Friday.
No call Fridays.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just, because I have to run a company and I need to, sort of have strategic time blocked. And, I could easily spend every single minute of every day on a Zoom call trying to make deals and get things to happen. And it burns you out. And even pre-pandemic, when we were, doing tons of Zooms, it was hard. And I decided at some point that this was unsustainable. And I didn't come up with this idea. I think I read it somewhere, but I worked to try to implement where I block all day Friday to do my heads down strategic thinking kind of work, where I actually get to work on strategically valid things that really come back and pay off. And so it's kind of like the important, not urgent type of distinction. And I let it slide after the first time I fully implemented it. I started booking out my Fridays. I said, I just need that time. I got to do those calls. And I did it to myself again, and I was miserable. So I just sort of got back on the No Call Friday bandwagon, having had that video I made about it popped up in my feed, my own video yelling at me. And I'm saying, man, I'm not even being true to this thing that I put out there and told everybody else to do. So I reconfigured about it. So the worst thing is to make a strong statement, and then get it thrown back in your face that you're not being consistent. there's a psychological hook about that. So.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you need. You need sometimes a taste of your own medicine, so to speak, right?
Yeah, this bald guy popped up in my feed and told me that I should have no call Fridays, and it sounded familiar. So,
or as the saying goes, practice what you preach. But
yeah,
I mean, we try as much as
we do
can.
try. It's still a good idea for everybody else, even if I fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least you have a sense of humor about it. That's for sure. So,
well, you have to,
absolutely. So, folks, we've been on this journey here with episode 32 with Ledge, David Ledgerwood, famously known as Ledge. I like the name. Pretty cool. And as we discuss how to incorporate sales in your B2B business or in your incorporate sales to scale your business, and he's a specialist in scaling business from 6 to 7 figures. Adding that 10 according to him, and I love the name of his company, Add 10. So that's like a great philosophy. Let's add 10. And we'll keep adding.
Unless it's to our debt, then let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not to our debt. No, then we got an issue. So, if you were to sum up, 2 or 3 things that you wanted to share with some companies today that are that are your ideal client, those who are, startups and, who are looking, who are, a couple $100,000 in sales and are looking to get up to the $500,000, $1 million or 2, but are not sure, and the owner is sitting there. Well, it's like if I give this up, then this is going to suffer, or if I take on a sales team, how am I going to manage them? What are 2 or 3 things you would share with us before we go?
If you're that founder and you have successfully gotten your business to that sort of $500,000-ish kind of spot, you're probably feeling good, and you should, because you've done a really good job. Up to that point, if you see that your sales are plateauing, you're not growing, you've probably run out, the value of your referral and partner network, you need to be thinking about, sort of developing other channels of sales. That's typically where things stall out. And just be honest with yourself. Like, if you love doing sales, then hire and bring in an operator. You can't do all the things. I'm not going to tell you which thing you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But if you want to run your business and you want to be CEO and, worry about all the things and be the integrator, then you do need someone to take over sales, because your sales will suffer as you take your eyes off the ball. And that is where things are going to plateau. And people may tell you, well, you need a sales coach or a consultant, or you should hire an SDR, or, all these things. And I can tell you that those approaches, or hire a VP of sales, you're too young to do that. You don't have enough money. You don't have a program. That person will be plugged in and they won't know what to do because they're not inside your head. Yeah. So the biggest thing at that point is at least consider your options. I was dissatisfied that there was not an option to do what amounts to a fractional, sort of revenue division. And that's kind of what we do there. So you don't need a VP of sales. You don't need, sort of an SDR or a consultant, a coach. Like, if you don't want to be in that seat at all, there is a solution for that. So just think about where you want to be. If you want to be in sales, awesome, do sales and hire an operator. If you want to not be in sales, I do not recommend you hire full-time sales folks. Instead, you could think about a solution like we provide. So it's very specific to, scaling up a tech-enabled services company. So if you find yourself all the time, you can't scale and grow because you are customizing every deal, every scope you put out is different. That is not a good selling point once you get to the point of where you're at in that $500,000 kind of mark. So to get there, you were probably willing to customize. You were willing to put out custom deals and do what you got to do to get the revenue. Now it's time to standardize. So you got to package your stuff up so that you can sell it and deliver it in a scalable fashion. So
I like that. Yeah. Initially customizing and, doing things on a case-by-case basis, and you get to a point and now you need to standardize.
You do. Yeah. You can't scale it anymore. So for a long time, people will tell you, oh, it's great. You know, we customize for every customer, and it's, you know, one of our differentiating points is we're not cookie cutter, and, you know, all these things. Right. And like, you can get away with that for a while,
yeah, but
you will end up causing yourself all kinds of headaches, and it doesn't scale because, you know, think of the other one, right? If I say we have package ABC and we have agreed on package ABC, we can take care of all the valuable things that we need to do within those, maybe 80% of the things we needed to do. 10% of the things that we need to do are not on the packages, but they can be add-ons. It's just like at a restaurant. You got your entrees and you got your add-ons, your side items. Then there's the special stuff that's the other 10%. And we could charge a lot of money for those special things. But if we can account for all those things, imagine how much better it is to go to your operators, your delivery people, your customer success people, and say, here's a new customer. They're on package B. Go. You don't have to read the statement of work. You don't have to do anything. They're on package B. Instead of, Ledgerwood did something again, and we don't know what it is. So everybody get the statement of work out and everybody read it. No, this one's different, and it slows down. Support becomes a nightmare. You can't scale it. You can't scale customer success. Delivery is different for every client. That only works in the early stage where you don't have so much to do.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. Standardizing packages is number one thing that we do when we come into a company, and we're able to raise the price too.
Yeah. No, I like that because that's pretty much, I'm involved in a startup right now that it is pretty similar. And yeah, we've customized and standardized packages and are pretty much sticking to that for the most part. But, you know, occasionally you bend the rules a little bit, but you're right. I certainly don't want to be like changing dramatically for one or two clients because it's so time consuming.
Yeah, and if you can, when I think of the bend the rules part, that's that last 10%. So it's an 80-10-10, right? You know, like if you have standard add-ons and things that you should sell for a standard price, that's okay. Now, that last 10% where you deviate, what's basically happening there is a customer walks in the door and they have a lot of money. And they say, I want a thing that you don't do. And then you can say, okay, you have a lot of money. I'm willing and able to do that thing. I'm going to charge you a lot of money for it. And then that customer just basically financed the ability of your company to add a new service or product, which you can add into one of your packages because now they paid to develop it. But you have to charge enough money at that point. If you're doing custom special things and you're not charging a lot of money for them, it's the wrong path.
It's the wrong path. Yeah. And then that'll cost your business money overall if you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to finance that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want customization, customization is time and effort and money, and it distracts you from the norm. So absolutely, that's something you should pay for. So Ledge, how does the audience find you? I mean, I found you everywhere, but
well, I'm glad content marketing pays off, right? Yeah. Anybody that wants to talk to me directly, always happy to talk to entrepreneurs and such. I'm on LinkedIn, David Ledgerwood, easy to find. Always all kinds of stuff in my feed with videos and posts and our blog and the whole thing. If you want to talk to our company, which would also be scheduling with me anyway, because I do all the calls, then it's add10. So it's ADD numeral 1 ZERO.co, not .com.co.
Yeah, I love the name of the company, add10. So
thank you.
We're looking to add 10 for sure this year. So
I wish you excellent zeros. 10x.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we love having you on the show, listening to the show, watching. And if you Ever want to join us on the Read Method Insider podcast, feel free to send us an email at insider@thereadmethod.com. We love having great guests like Ledge here to share expertise and all sorts of different aspects of sales and business success. And today was no different as we talked about incorporating sales to scale your business to the next level. Add in 10. I mean, the name alone says it all. How to scale by adding another zero to your annual income or revenue. So please subscribe and download. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever your favorite podcast app is. Don't forget, while you're there, leave us a review. It really helps us to spread the word and to share the expertise that we receive from our special guests like Ledge today, Tom Hopkins, Les Brown, Todd Stottlemyre. Speaking of a pitcher, we were talking about baseball. Yeah. We had 3-time World Series champion on here 2 or 3 times. Stephen Benson of Badger Maps out of San Francisco. He's another great sales mind, and many more. So, and always remember, folks, for 2021, please be thoughtful, be intentional, and be safe. And let's go out there and add 10 while we're at it too. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to our next episode with you.
For more information, please visit us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or www.thereadmethod.com.